If you're hearing this, it means you're still connected. It means you're alive. And honestly, that makes you lucky. Or maybe not. I don't know anymore. What I do know is the world isn't what it was. Not even close. And it all happened so fast. Picture this. You're going about your day. Coffee in hand, maybe heading to work, scrolling on your phone, and then it happens. The ground shakes like it's got a heartbeat of its own. A deep, bone-rattling thump. You think it's an earthquake at first, but earthquakes don't roar. They don't scream. The first time I felt it, I froze. The power went out, the streetlights flickered, and suddenly it was just darkness. Not the calm kind, the kind that feels alive. And then the screaming started. People running, shouting, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. I know it sounds like something out of a movie. Godzilla, Cloverfield, whatever you want to call it. But this isn't Hollywood. This is real. It's happening right now all over the world. And it's worse than anything you've ever imagined. I've been keeping track of the reports. They're calling these things titans. I mean, what else can you call them? They're massive, like skyscrapers with legs. Some look like they crawled out of the ocean. Others like they've been buried underground for centuries. Ancient, alien, I don't even know what to believe anymore. Here's what I've got so far. Tokyo. Gone. Flattened in hours. They say one of the creatures, a serpent-looking thing the size of a city block, came out of the bay and just tore through it. People didn't even have time to run. The military's doing what they can, but bullets don't do much against something that big. And then there's New York. I saw a live feed before everything went dark. A winged thing, black as night, just perched on top of the Empire State Building. It let out this screech, this awful, soul-crushing noise, and then dove straight into the city. Buildings crumbled like sandcastles. People scattered like ants. And the worst part? There's more of them. So many more. If you're listening, you need to understand. This isn't localized. This isn't some isolated disaster. This is everywhere. London, Rio, Sydney, they're all reporting sightings. These monsters, they're not just attacking cities. They're hunting us. It's like they know where we are, like they're drawn to the noise, the lights, the chaos. I don't know why this is happening. Nobody does. Maybe we dug too deep. Maybe we woke something up we shouldn't have. Or maybe this is just the way it ends. All I know is we're not prepared for this. None of us are. I don't want to scare you. I guess I already have. You need to stay safe. If you're in a major city, you need to leave. Now, these things are drawn to the noise, the movement. Head somewhere quiet, somewhere remote, and stay off the roads, if you can. Highways are jammed, and you don't want to be stuck when one of these things shows up. I saw one up close. Not too far from here, it was massive. Its eyes looked almost human, like it was studying us, deciding whether we were worth its time. And then it just moved on. Like we were nothing, just ants beneath its feet. If you're still listening, hang in there. I'll be here as long as I can, bringing you updates, sharing what I know. You're not alone in this. Even if it feels like the world stopped breathing, there's still a pulse out there. Somewhere. The world is falling apart and no one knows what to do. I've been hearing bits and pieces from survivors, scattered voices on frequencies like this one. It's chaos out there, people running, fighting, screaming. Cities aren't just crumbling. They're disappearing. Entire skylines are being erased. And yet somehow some of us are still here. Let me tell you what it's like. In the cities, it's pure panic. The streets are packed with people trying to get out. But where can you even go when the monsters are everywhere? Cars are abandoned on highways, their owners long gone, either running on foot or worse. Food supplies are running out because no one is delivering anything anymore. Water lines are broken. Hospitals, forget it. They're either flattened or overwhelmed. I heard from a woman earlier, Emma, I think her name was. She's a nurse from Chicago. She stayed behind at her hospital when the power went out, working by flashlight to help patients. Can you imagine that? In the middle of all this, she refused to leave those people behind. She said she held a baby in her arms as one of the Titans moved through the city. The ground shook so much she could barely stand, but she stayed. She stayed because she said no one else would. And it's not just the cities. Smaller towns and villages are being hit too. It doesn't matter where you are. These things aren't picky. I heard about a town up in Maine, small place, no more than a couple hundred people. A creature came out of the forest, one they hadn't even seen coming. It was huge, with long legs and these glowing insect-like eyes. It didn't destroy the town. It just stood there, watching, like it was waiting for something. Then it left, leaving the place in shambles. The people there are still trying to make sense of it. I think that's the hardest part, trying to make sense of any of this. People keep asking why. Why now? Why us? But there aren't any answers. The government, what's left of it, isn't giving us much. Leaders are either holed up in bunkers or they're gone completely. The emergency broadcasts don't say anything we don't already know. Stay inside. Stay quiet. Stay safe. But how can anyone stay safe when there's nowhere safe left? And yet, people are still trying. I heard about a family from Texas, parents and 3 kids, who managed to get to a cave system just before one of the creatures passed through. They've been living there for 2 days now, rationing what little food they managed to grab. The father told me they're scared to even breathe too loudly, afraid it might draw something's attention. There's also talk of resistance. Small groups are forming, trying to fight back. I don't know how they're doing it. Guns don't work, and explosions barely leave a scratch on these things. But they're trying. In Atlanta, a group of firefighters used everything they had to rescue people trapped under rubble, even as one of the monsters roamed nearby. They didn't stop. They didn't give up. But not everyone's like that. There's looting, fighting, people turning on each other. In some places, it's like the monsters aren't the only threat anymore. I heard about a group of survivors in Los Angeles who were attacked, not by a creature, but by other people. They fought over supplies, over space, over survival. It's heartbreaking, but I guess that's what desperation does to people. I keep thinking about how quickly everything unraveled. It's been, a few days, maybe a week, and already the systems we relied on are gone. No electricity, no running water, no internet. The things we took for granted, our phones, our cars, our food deliveries, they're useless now. It's like the world has been stripped bare, leaving us with nothing but fear. And yet, even in the middle of all this, there are moments that remind me we're still human. Like Emma, the nurse, like the family in the cave, like the firefighters in Atlanta. People are still trying to help each other. They're still holding on. I don't know what's coming next. Every time I think it can't get worse, it does. But if you're out there, if you're listening, remember this. You're not alone. There are others out here fighting to survive, just like you. And as long as we're still here, there's still hope. It's getting worse, much worse. Whatever fragile grip humanity had on this situation is slipping fast. The creatures, no, the Titans, aren't just random anymore. They're moving with purpose, and it's terrifying. The reports are piling up. Paris, gone. A colossal, insect-like creature, taller than the Eiffel Tower, crushed it as it made its way across the city. Its body shimmered, almost metallic, reflecting the flames of burning buildings. People thought they were safe underground, in the metro, but the thing burrowed straight through it, as if the earth itself wasn't enough to hold it back. Then there's Moscow. I've heard nothing but silence from that region. One survivor managed to get a transmission out before their signal cut off. They described something that sounded like a walking mountain. A creature so massive that it moved slower than the others, but left a trail of destruction that stretched for miles. It didn't just destroy buildings, it flattened entire districts. The snow is red now, they said. The military's throwing everything they've got at these things, but it's not enough. Airstrikes, tanks, missiles, nothing works. I watched a live stream before the power went out here. Fighter jets swarmed a giant crab-like creature off the coast of Florida. They launched missile after missile, but the thing barely flinched. Instead, it retaliated, sending waves crashing into the city and swallowing everything in its path. Miami's underwater now. Governments are collapsing. Leaders are abandoning their posts, fleeing to God knows where. I heard rumors that some of them are hiding in deep underground bunkers. But honestly, I don't blame them. What could they possibly say that would help? Stay calm. We're working on a solution. Those words mean nothing when the world is burning. There are whispers, conspiracy theories really, about where these things came from. Some say they're ancient beings, something older than humanity that we woke up by mistake. Others think they're aliens, creatures from another planet, here to reclaim the Earth. I don't know which idea is scarier, but none of it explains why they're targeting us so specifically. They're not just destroying cities anymore, they're wiping out entire infrastructures, power plants, water reservoirs, communication towers, anything that keeps us connected. They're tearing it apart. It's like they know exactly what to hit to bring us to our knees. And it's working. People are losing it. Panic is spreading like wildfire. I heard about a city in Brazil where people tried to take shelter in a stadium, only for a Titan to collapse the entire structure. Thousands were trapped. Thousands more were killed. The rest, they ran. They didn't even look back. There's talk of safe zones, but I don't trust it. One of the broadcasts I managed to pick up claimed there was a secure location in Colorado, some kind of fortified base. But how can anything be secure when these creatures can level mountains? And the ocean. God, the ocean. It's alive in a way I've never seen before. Ships are disappearing. Whole fleets, fishermen, cargo vessels, even naval ships. They're just gone. The sea has become this vast, ominous void, hiding things that are too big, too powerful for us to comprehend. What scares me the most is how quiet some places have become. No transmissions, no voices, nothing. Just static. It's like entire regions have been wiped off the map. And the silence. It's worse than the chaos, but it's not just silence. People are whispering about seeing things. Shadows in the distance, lights in the sky, movements that don't make sense. One survivor described seeing a Titan surrounded by smaller creatures like it was commanding them. If that's true, if these things can coordinate, we're in deeper trouble than we thought. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep broadcasting. The signal is getting weaker and the equipment isn't holding up, but I'll keep going as long as I can. Someone needs to document this to let people know they're not alone. It's not just the physical destruction that's killing us. It's what's happening in our heads. I think that's the part no one talks about, the part no one was ready for. People are breaking. The human mind wasn't built to handle this kind of fear, this kind of hopelessness. I've been listening to survivors, piecing together their stories. There's a woman I spoke to, Marisol, from a small town outside Barcelona. She was hiding in the basement of her family's home when one of the Titans came through. She said she could feel its footsteps, the way they rattled her teeth, the way the walls cracked with every tremor. But the worst part wasn't the noise. It was the waiting, just sitting there, in the dark, not knowing if the next step would be the one that crushed her and her family. She said the silence between each footstep felt like an eternity. And that's what's getting to people. The waiting, the not knowing. Every second feels like it could be your last. Every shadow could be one of them. Every rumble in the distance sends a chill down your spine because you don't know if it's a storm or something worse. People are starting to turn on each other. In some places, the fear is so thick, you can feel it. And it's making people do things they never thought they'd do. I heard about a group of survivors in Arizona who barricaded themselves inside a supermarket. When another group showed up, desperate for food, they were turned away at gunpoint. A fight broke out, and in the chaos, someone set the place on fire. No one made it out. But it's not just fear, it's guilt. Survivors are carrying it like a weight they can't shake. Why me? Why did I live when so many others didn't? I spoke to a man named Sam, a teacher from Portland. He was on a bus with his students when one of the Titans appeared. He managed to get a few of the kids out before the creature crushed the bus. He told me he can still hear their screams, even when he's awake. He said he doesn't sleep much anymore. Sleep. That's another thing we've lost. How can anyone sleep when the world is ending? Even if you close your eyes, the nightmares come. People see the Titans in their dreams over and over again. They wake up screaming, sweating, gasping for air. Some people have stopped trying to sleep altogether. They just sit there, staring at the walls, waiting for something to happen. And then there's the loneliness, the isolation. So many of us are scattered, cut off from everyone we know, everyone we love. I've had people call in to this broadcast just to hear another voice. One man broke down crying, saying he hadn't spoken to anyone in days. He didn't even know if his family was alive. He just wanted someone, anyone, to tell him he wasn't alone. But how do you comfort someone when you don't even believe the words that you're saying? I don't have answers. I don't know what to say to these people, to any of you. I'm barely holding it together myself. Every time I hear a noise outside, I freeze. Every time the power flickers, I wonder if this is it. If this is the moment everything goes dark for good. And yet, there's still a part of me that hopes. I don't know why, but it's there, buried under all the fear and despair. Maybe it's human nature. Maybe we're wired to hold on, even when there's nothing left to hold on to. I think about the little moments of humanity I've seen. The nurse in Chicago, the firefighters in Atlanta, the family in Texas. I think about the people who are still trying to help, still trying to make a difference, even when it feels pointless. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me talking into this microphone, hoping someone out there is listening. Because as long as we're still here, as long as we're still fighting, there's a chance. A small one maybe, but it's there. If you're listening to this, don't give up. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible, but you're still here. That means something. That means you've made it this far, and you can keep going. We may be scattered, broken, afraid, but we're not alone. Not really. Despite everything, people are finding ways to come together. It's strange, isn't it? How, even in the worst moments, humanity refuses to let go of hope. I think that's the only thing keeping us alive right now. Each other. Let me tell you about a story I heard. There's a small farming town in Iowa, barely a blip on the map, that's turned itself into a sanctuary. The people there pooled their resources and built a makeshift barricade out of tractors, shipping containers, and whatever else they could find. They've been growing food in greenhouses powered by generators and collecting rainwater to stay alive. It's not much, but they're surviving. They're even taking in refugees, people who have lost everything and have nowhere else to go. That's the kind of resilience that keeps me going. These people aren't soldiers or scientists. They're farmers, teachers, shopkeepers. They don't have weapons or technology, but they have each other, and somehow that's enough. And it's not just in small towns. In New Zealand, there's a group of engineers who managed to rig up a solar-powered communication tower. They're using it to relay messages to survivors across the Pacific, coordinating rescue efforts and sharing supplies. It's a lifeline for so many people who thought they were alone. I heard another story from Alaska. A group of fishermen managed to outsmart one of the Titans, a massive serpent-like creature that had been terrorizing their coast. They used their boats to lure it into a narrow fjord where it got stuck between the cliffs. It's still there, unable to move. They call it a victory, even if they don't know how long it'll stay trapped. These small victories, they're not much in the grand scheme of things, but they matter. They remind us that the Titans aren't unbeatable, that we're not powerless. I think about the people who are risking everything to help others, like the doctors and nurses who are setting up makeshift clinics in the ruins of cities. They don't have much, just a few supplies, and a lot of determination, but they're saving lives. One nurse told me she's been using candles to light her operating room because there's no electricity. She said it doesn't matter if she's scared or tired. As long as there are people who need her, she'll keep going. Then there are the scientists. They're scattered, working in whatever labs or shelters they can find, trying to figure out what these creatures are and how to stop them. I don't know how much progress they've made, but the fact that they're trying at all is incredible. In one of the broadcasts I picked up, a researcher in Germany said they'd found traces of something unusual in the Titan's DNA, something that doesn't match anything on Earth. She didn't say much more before the signal cut out, but it gives me hope that someone somewhere is getting closer to understanding this. And it's not just the big efforts, it's the small acts of kindness too, like the woman I spoke to from Texas who's been baking bread in a wood-fired oven and handing it out to her neighbors, or the man in Oregon who's been fixing radios and handing them out so people can stay connected. These are the things that remind me we're still human. We're scared, yes. We're broken, yes. But we're still here, and we're still trying. If you're out there and you feel like you're all alone, you're not. People are fighting for you, even if you don't see it. There are communities, small and scattered as they may be, that are holding the line. They're proving that we're more than just survivors. I know it's hard to see the good when everything around us feels so dark, but it's there. It's in the people who share their last bit of food, the ones who risk their lives to save others, the ones who refuse to give up, no matter how hopeless it seems. So, if you're listening, find your people. Build something, no matter how small. Even if it's just a handful of you in a basement or a makeshift shelter, hold on to each other. That's how we fight back. Not with weapons or strength, but with the one thing the Titans don't have. Each other. We're not done yet. We're still fighting. And as long as there's someone left to fight, there's hope. As I've been listening to survivors, scanning for signals, and piecing together bits of information, one thing is becoming clear. People aren't just hiding anymore. They're trying to understand. The scientists, the researchers, the thinkers, they're still out there, and they're working on answers. Here's what I know so far. There's been a lot of debate about where these Titans came from. Some think they've been here all along, buried deep beneath the earth, dormant for centuries, maybe even longer. There's evidence, or at least rumors, of ancient texts and cave drawings depicting creatures that look eerily similar to what we're seeing now. Were they worshipped as gods, feared as demons? No one knows for sure. Then there's the other theory, the alien one. It's the idea that these creatures aren't of this world, that they came from somewhere else. Some kind of extraterrestrial force, far beyond our understanding. It sounds far-fetched, I know, but there are reports of strange lights in the sky before some of the Titans appeared. Coincidence? Maybe, but maybe not. I picked up a broadcast from a team of scientists in Switzerland, working out of a bunker near the Alps. They've been studying samples from the remains of a Titan that was brought down, yes, brought down, near Munich. Apparently it wasn't fully destroyed, but enough of it was left behind for them to analyze. They say its biology is unlike anything on Earth. Its cells regenerate at an astonishing rate, which explains why conventional weapons are so ineffective. But they also found something else, something that could be a weakness. The broadcast didn't go into details, but they mentioned an energy signature, something unique to the Titans. They think it might be possible to disrupt it, to destabilize them somehow. It's a slim lead, but it's something. Meanwhile, in Japan, a group of engineers is working on a weapon specifically designed to target the Titans. They're calling it Project Aegis. It's supposed to use some kind of concentrated energy pulse, but they're still in the testing phase. The problem is, no one knows if we have enough time to finish it before these creatures destroy everything. There's also been talk of natural deterrents, things these creatures might avoid. A group of biologists in South America believes the Titans are sensitive to certain frequencies, similar to how some animals react to ultrasonic sounds. They've been experimenting with ways to amplify these frequencies, hoping it might repel the Titans or at least slow them down. But it's not just about fighting back. Some scientists are focused on understanding why this is happening in the first place. What woke these creatures up, if they've been here all along? What triggered them now? There's speculation that it could be tied to climate change, seismic activity, or even human interference. Digging too deep, drilling where we shouldn't have. One theory that's gaining traction is that the Titans are responding to some kind of imbalance in the Earth's ecosystem. They're not just here to destroy us, they're here because something is fundamentally wrong with the planet. If that's true, it's not just about survival, it's about figuring out how to restore balance, how to fix what's broken. And then there are those who believe the Titans aren't just random creatures. They're intelligent. There are accounts of them moving in coordinated ways, avoiding certain areas, even appearing to communicate with each other. If that's true, if they have some kind of consciousness, it changes everything. How do you fight something that might be smarter than you? For now, all we have are theories and scattered bits of hope. The scientists are doing everything they can, but they're working with limited resources, often in hiding, under constant threat. They're heroes in their own way, even if they don't wear capes or carry weapons. If you're listening and you have skills, engineering, biology, physics, anything, find these people. Help them. Every little bit counts. The fight isn't just on the front lines. It's in the labs, in the research centers, in the minds of the people who are trying to figure out how to stop this. I don't know if we'll find the answers in time, but I do know this. Humanity has always risen to its greatest challenges. We faced extinction before, and we've survived. Maybe this is no different. Maybe we'll find a way to fight back, to rebuild, to thrive. So if you're out there, if you're listening, don't give up. The people working in the shadows, the ones trying to understand, to create, to save, they need us as much as we need them. We're not done yet. Not by a long shot. If you're still with me, you're surviving. And that means something. It means you've outlasted the worst days of humanity's history so far. But survival isn't just about staying alive anymore. It's about finding a way forward, figuring out how to live in a world that's been turned upside down. I've been listening to stories from across the globe, and I can tell you this much. Survival is no longer about waiting for rescue. It's about making your own way, carving out spaces where we can hold on and maybe even fight back. There are places where people are starting to rebuild. Little pockets of hope in the chaos. Take that town in Iowa I mentioned before. They're still holding strong. They've turned their community into a self-sustaining sanctuary, using the resources they have and the skills they've learned. Farming, scavenging, bartering. They've created a system that works, even if it's not perfect. In northern Canada, a group of survivors is using the freezing temperatures to their advantage. They've discovered that some of the Titans are slower in the cold, almost sluggish. They've taken to moving during snowstorms, using the weather as cover to avoid detection. It's risky, but it's working for them. I heard about a group in the Appalachian Mountains. They've set up an entire network of caves as a safe haven. They've mapped out escape routes, created storage spaces for food and water, and even set up a makeshift school for the kids. That's right, kids. Even in the middle of this nightmare, people are still teaching, still learning, still believing in a future. These stories aren't just about survival. They're about resilience. They're about people refusing to give up, even when the odds are stacked against them. But it's not just about finding shelter or food. It's about learning how to adapt to this new world, The Titans are a constant threat, yes, but they're not invincible. People are starting to figure that out. One group in Australia has been studying their movements, tracking patterns in how the Titans behave. They've noticed that some of them follow predictable paths, almost like migration routes. If we can learn their patterns, we might be able to avoid them, or even outsmart them. In Scandinavia, survivors have been using sound to confuse the Titans. They've set up speakers in remote areas, playing loud, continuous noise to draw the creatures away from populated zones. It's not a permanent solution, but it's buying people time to evacuate and regroup. There's also talk of training animals, dogs specifically, to sense when the Titans are nearby. Some survivors say their pets have been acting strange, almost like they can feel the creatures before we can see or hear them. It's still a theory, but it could be another tool in our arsenal. And then there's the tech. People are salvaging whatever they can, repurposing old technology to survive. Solar panels, wind turbines, even car batteries. They're being used to power small communities, to keep the lights on, to keep the hope alive. The military isn't gone completely either. There are still pockets of organized resistance, using whatever weapons and resources they have left to protect survivors. They've been experimenting with new strategies, luring the Titans into traps, targeting weak points, even testing experimental weapons. I don't know how much success they've had, but the fact that they're still fighting gives me hope. But survival isn't just about the practical stuff. It's about the human stuff, too. It's about finding ways to stay connected, to hold on to who we are. I heard about a community in Italy that gathers every night to sing. They sit around a fire, and they sing old songs. Songs from before the world fell apart. They say it reminds them of what they're fighting for, of what it means to be human. In a refugee camp in Africa, survivors have been sharing stories, passing down their history to the next generation. They don't have books or tablets or phones anymore, so they're doing it the old way, through words, through memory. And then there are the small acts of kindness. A woman in Mexico who gave away her last loaf of bread to a family with children. A man in India who carried an injured stranger on his back for miles to safety. A group of kids in France who painted a mural on the side of a ruined building, just to bring a little color back to their world. These things, they matter. They remind us that even when the world is at its darkest, we can still create light. So, if you're listening, don't just survive, live, find your people. Build something, no matter how small. Hold on to the things that make us human. Kindness, hope, resilience. Because if we're going to make it through this, it won't just be because we were strong. It'll be because we cared. We've come this far, you and I. Days, maybe weeks, have blurred together, and yet we're still here, still breathing, still fighting. That alone is a victory. But now, as I speak to you, I find myself wondering, what comes next? What kind of world will we leave behind when this is over, if it ever ends? This is the question that keeps me up at night. It's not just about surviving anymore. Survival is the bare minimum. What comes after? Will we be able to rebuild? Will we be better? Or will the fear, the destruction, and the loss leave scars too deep to heal? I think about all the people I've spoken to since this started. The nurse in Chicago, the family in Texas, the scientists in Switzerland. Each of them, in their own way, is holding on to something bigger than survival. They're holding on to hope, and I think that's what we need to focus on now. Hope isn't just a word, it's a choice. It's a decision we make every single day to believe that tomorrow will be better. And there are reasons to hope. The scientists are making progress, however slow. The communities are growing stronger, learning to adapt. The small victories are adding up, even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes. We're learning together how to live in this new world. I heard a story recently that stuck with me. In a small village in India, a group of survivors planted a tree, a single sapling, in the center of what was left of their town. They said it was a symbol, a promise that life would go on. They've been taking turns caring for it, watering it, protecting it from the elements. It's just a tree. But to them, it's everything. It's hope. And that's what I want to leave you with today. Wherever you are, whoever you're with, find your tree. Plant it, nurture it, protect it. Maybe it's not an actual tree. Maybe it's an idea, a dream, a promise to yourself or the people around you. Whatever it is, hold on to it. Because as long as we have something to fight for, we're not done. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep broadcasting. The equipment is failing, and the power is flickering more often now. But if this is the last time you hear my voice, I want you to remember this. You are not alone. None of us are. We've been pushed to the edge, but we haven't fallen. Not yet. And as long as there's breath in our lungs, as long as there's even one of us left standing, we'll keep fighting. We'll rebuild. We'll create something new, something better. The Titans may be powerful, but they're not unbeatable. They can't destroy what makes us human. Our compassion, our resilience, our ability to hope in the face of despair. So keep going, keep fighting, keep hoping, and remember, the world may feel dark now, but even in the darkest night, there's always a glimmer of light. Find it, hold on to it, and let it guide you forward. Stay safe, stay strong, stay human. This is my sign-off for now, or maybe for good, but I believe in you, I believe in us. As we wrap up today's broadcast, I want to leave you with this thought. Despite the darkness we face, despite everything we've lost, there's still hope. We're still here. And as long as we keep moving forward, keep building, keep remembering each other, we're not truly lost. No matter what the world looks like around us, there's always something worth fighting for. Always something worth remembering. So let's keep going together. Even when things feel uncertain, remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together. We might not have the past, but we have today, and that's enough to make tomorrow worth living for. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, if it helped you feel connected, or maybe just a little less alone, please do me a favor. Like this video, share it with others, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything to us, and if you want to hear more of these daily broadcasts, you can also support us by clicking the join button on our channel. Every bit of your support helps us keep going, keep sharing, and keep telling the stories that matter. Until next time, keep safe, keep strong, and remember, even in the silence, we are still here. You're still here, and that's all we need to keep moving forward. See you soon.